Welcome back here to the Hillside, guys. Today it's a nice, mildly warm day here in early February, but most importantly, we have reached the 10-hour of daylight threshold here in Zone 6B, 7A, West Virginia. Okay, so what does 10 hours of daylight signify? Okay, so most of your plants are going to be completely dormant at this time. If you tried to overwinter some leafy greens or some, flower bulbs, whatever, they're going to just stay dormant. Once you get the 10 hours of daylight, it does trigger growth to start regenerating in your plants. So let's go ahead and take a quick walk around the garden here, some of the hillside flower beds, etc., and show you what's popping up here early February 2023. Okay, so first up, these are actually lady slipper orchids. Okay, these are actually a native that has been, I guess, domesticated, but there they go. They're one of the first bulbs to pop up here early in the winter time. You can kind of tell there's really no other life really at all in this flower bed except for these lady slippers coming up. So let's check out some other stuff growing down the row. So this is a hellebore. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. It is very cold hardy. It's one of the first plants to kind of bloom in the early spring or late winter, wherever you may live. But this is the first year I've ever seen these leaves like this ever actually just die off like that, because we had a very cold snap, guys. A very cold snap. Well, first off, we had really warm weather followed by a really cold snap, what really damaged a lot of plants this year in the gardens. But as you can see right here, guys, it's kind of growing back from the crown and even starting to put on some flower buds. Okay, so this particular one I'm not sure of. I think this was I actually bought some seeds. I didn't think they grew. I dumped the dirt out, and then lo and behold, this thing grew. So I couldn't tell you what it is. But this right here is this is the pink ice, I believe. This one I actually bought from the store. You can tell it's not even doing nearly as well as the seed-grown one beside it. But this one's coming back. A nice flower bud right there, starting to break open. So that's awesome. So let's continue the tour and see what else we have over here. Now, as we move over here, this is a hydrangea bush, and it is worse for wear, guys. So that is dead. Like I mentioned, these buds are starting to break out right here, and they are not doing well. So hopefully this will regenerate from the crown. Hopefully it does. Oh, wait, I just saw something. Let me get in here. See this growth right here? That's actually on my clematis vine. So that's actually kind of breaking a bud right there down the line, which is interesting because the rest of the plant is just this dead looking mass of vines that needs to be cut back. So that is interesting. More to come on that. So let's see what else we can find. All right, so let's take a quick look here at the nursery landscape tables here. It's where I do a lot of plant propagation and seed starting, etc. Not a lot going on. I've cleaned this off. It kind of got totally covered in mud and leaves and things like that, but everything's still very much dormant. These are the wild blueberries I grew from seed. You can kind of tell a little bit of budding starting on those there. These are just some Osage orange trees from seed. More wild blueberries right here. Those I need to plant actually out into the garden or a spot I need to create for those. If you have never tried wild blueberries, they are 1,000 times better than the domesticated, hybridized blueberries we get commercially that are bred for size and commercial production. Not the wild ones, which are much smaller, much more difficult to pick, but definitely worth it if you are able to find them in the wild or grow your own. This is an apple I grew from seed. It's not really doing much of anything here. This apple there, you can see is starting to put a little bit of a apical bud right here, like the top growth. So hopefully that breaks soon. Moving along here, these are just some bald cypress I grew from seed. Yes, you can grow them from seed. They will grow in this zone. They don't need to be grown in a swamp. A lot of people think that. However, this container, before I get sidetracked here, has no drainage in the bottom. I did not drain it. So if it does get a little bit swampy, I do kind of plan on in the summertime trying to kind of flood it out to kind of give it that swamp feel, see how they do. But that's just an experiment. You don't have to do that. These over here are my Acer pentaphyllum. I showed these in one video. This is actually the Chinese five-leafed maple. This is a very, very rare plant, guys, and it's very long and kind of spindly, but it kind of grows way up to here. But anyways, this plant, there's actually, what I read is less than 500 of these plants left in the wild. It's very, very remote area in like a mountainous valley in China where they're native to, that they're pretty much almost extinct. So if the species is going to continue, it's going to be home gardeners like myself, or if you want to get into conserving some of these species, do look into that. But that is it's a pretty awesome plant, pretty awesome story. Do check that out, the Chinese five-leafed maple. This is another apple I grew from seed. And yes, I know it's not going to breed true to type, but you know what? It's an experiment. It's fun, and going with it. So it doesn't have to be always perfect. People get too hung up on varieties, etc., etc. If you've ever watched some guys like Mark Shepard with regenerative farming, he does that. He plants thousands of seeds and lets the genetics just do what they do and selects the best and goes with it like that. So I'm going to try to do the same, just kind of let them grow, see which ones do the best, see which ones taste the best. And you know, worst case scenario, applewood makes great barbecue firewood. These coming up here, these are pawpaw trees, not the papaya. Pawpaw is native to North America. So these are growing very kind of small, but they took forever to germinate. But I guess that's just typical. They're going to be an understory plant for years before they actually. There's try to find the. There's what the seed coat would have looked like. So there you go. More apples, and this is just some pampas grass I overwintered from last year. I grew those from seed. So let's see what I got over here on the side of the house. So these here are the Egyptian walking onions. They've had several different names, whatever you may refer to them as. But these were basically in an old flower bed that was going to be basically torn out and just redone. So I just kind of salvaged these and just stuck the bulbs in. They looked like they were halfway dead this past summer, but it looks like most of them have overwintered. Sorry, this is the rustling of these leaves. Let me try to get a better spot here, but check it out. So these guys will multiply, and if you've never seen them grow, they'll grow really tall like a regular onion, but at the top of the stem here, they're going to put on flowers and make little bulbules, whatever, and it's going to get top heavy. It falls over. Okay, in place it's going to fall over, and those are going to touch the ground, and they're going to start growing. So they'll walk. Okay, so that's where it gets the name, the walking onions. And then you just basically break those little bulbules apart and plant them out, and they're going to grow into little guys like this. So these guys are making a good effort here. They're starting to perk back up, and these onions are one of the first things you're going to see growing in the spring. Like this one here, apparently I missed from last year. These were just regular green onions, you know, like you would used to cook with. I guess I missed one, and it's surviving, and it's starting to grow again. So maybe I'll let it go, and if it goes to seed, maybe save some seed, or just eat it. I don't know. What would you guys do? Leave me a comment down below. Leave it for seed or eat it. You decide. Okay, so this dead-looking bush here was actually my rosemary, and that's not a good sign. So this has technically survived for, I'm thinking this was its third winter, and it did well, but this past cold snap we had, guys, was super brutal, and I think it might have killed it. I was kind of pushing the zone. This needs to be grown a little bit farther south, but I don't know. I'm going to leave it, see what happens. Maybe it'll grow back from the stem, from the base of the roots, but I mean, breaking it apart, that smell, guys, that fresh rosemary smell, even if you don't like cooking with it, just the smell of it is amazing. So, you know, they can't always be winners. I'll keep you posted if this thing does survive, but worst case scenario, I'll just plant around it and grow something else in its spot. So let's go look at some positive news for now. So these are very, very common. These are actually miniature daffodils. Okay, they're little small, little yellow flowers. They naturalize well everywhere, and they're one of the first signs of spring. And these guys here are no different. They're super healthy. The whole row, they kind of go all the way down the path of the sidewalk here. Doing quite well, so that's a good sign that spring should be here. But you know, it's just really early, so I hope they don't get damaged. But here's a hyacinth. See that? That's how it emerges from the ground. Hyacinth and daffodils are definitely one of the first signs of a spring coming on, and the season's changing. Like I mentioned, the whole 10 hours of daylight is definitely going to start triggering some definitely some new spring growth, I'm trying to say. And let's see here, this is the yarrow. It's a great medicinal plant. I've used it many times on a cut. It does actually help stop the blood flow, but also, check with your doctor. Don't use me for medical advice. I'm just a gardener, okay, guys? But here's what I want to show you here. This is the cool spot. Crocus. Crocus, one of my favorite flowers in the spring because they're just A, so beautiful, 2, easily to grow, and they spread so much. Now these crocus here, I think I actually dug these out of a field, just a couple bulbs, and they've kind of naturalized and spread in this little spot here next to the house. Down the street from me, guys, there's this, basically along the road, this guy's yard is just, I'd probably say, I'm not exaggerating, 2,000 or 3,000 crocus. The whole yard is just naturalized with these guys, so it is a welcome sight in the early spring. So let's go ahead and continue the tour and show you some of the stuff what's going on in the garden. All right, so here in the backyard, one of the flower beds, you can see the irises are starting to wake up in this mess of leaves here. I probably should pull some of these branches down that kind of fallen and kind of piled up in this corner here. But as you can see right there, the deer have done a number kind of nibbling the tips of them, but iris, definitely one of your earlier bulbs to grow in the early spring. So I'm going to take you over here and check this out. So this is the mock sweet orange. It supposed to have a beautiful white flower that smells almost like an orange blossom, but along with the rosemary bush, yeah, I mean, if you want to try to tell if a plant is still alive, kind of give it a little test, a little bend like this. If it's fighting you back and it's kind of elastic, you'll kind of get a feel for it. It is probably still alive. It's too early for this thing to really break any kind of dormancy, but hopefully this pulls back from the brink of death here. It looks like this has seriously been nibbled off by deer. This is even some deer hair. Yeah, awesome. So anyway, some things are doing worse than others. Like I said, this brutal cold snap, I think we got to -2 or -3, which is not as cold for everybody, but for us, it lasted. It was super, super bad. A lot of stuff was damaged. Now this is a lilac, and it's definitely healthy. These things will survive into the great northern plains. I've seen when I was living in North Dakota, I mean, people have gigantic lilac hedges. So definitely if you live somewhere where it gets cold, lilacs are definitely a good option. And even though the deer have right there nibbled the tip off, it's still growing right here. So awesome, awesome, good sign. It's a little shot of the compost pile. Went ahead and turned that over here recently. So, definitely get the compost, stirring it up this time of year. You want to start getting that airflow through there, help it start breaking down when it does warm up. So definitely don't just sit on your compost and forget about it until spring when you need it. Keep turning it through the winter. So you might be asking yourself, wow, Dave, your garlic is looking awesome. Well, it is. However, it's also February 11th, which is way too soon. All right, guys, we're going to get some more cold here. It may still even snow up until April. This garlic, I mean, it's super, super healthy. 3 different varieties. I mean, it's 1 row, 2, and I think the back row was the same variety, just had a lot more bulbs of that particular kind. And I don't remember off the top of my head exactly which one of these are. One's a French heirloom, one's Creole, and one is something else I can't remember. Anyways, the worst thing that can happen for your garlic is for it to start growing this early in the season. But this is why I would tell you to keep a bunch of leaves, grass clippings, something on hand. I made a video about that. I'll leave a link to that up here. But yeah, if it's going to start getting super, super, super cold, guys, or you figure there's going to be some really, really freezing cold nights, well, garlic is adapted to be able to survive in this type of climate. It's going to survive the cold. If it's going to be really bad, you need to insulate these guys. So put on tons and tons of leaves. So that's why I always recommend you keep as much leaves around as possible for just this type of situation. And well, nothing else really to show you here in the gardens. They're all asleep. Nothing's growing. I didn't try to overwinter any kind of greens or plants or anything, but the sun's shining, the birds are chirping. Spring will be here eventually, and just right around the corner. So now's the time to start thinking about planting your seeds indoors, getting the grow lights and the heat mats and all those things out. It's an exciting time of year right around the corner, fellow gardeners. So hope you like this little tour. Not a whole lot to really show you at this point, but you know what? early spring, there's always something growing. Get out there and check out what's going on in your garden. You never know what you might find. All right, guys, from the hillside, until next time, I'll see you. Bye-bye.